Howdy. Hello. Hello, people. This is an enormous room. It usually, I don't know, this looks like a place to put a baby kaiju, so it's very nice that it can accommodate people that are smaller, like us. So, there's a slight change of plans. As you can tell, the title of this talk is not something about space in the void. It's broader. It's decentralized science, or how I learned to stop worrying and love Web3. You know? Right? Something good to do with all the extra money that we don't know what to do with. So, my name is Dane Gobel, as she said. I'm the co-founder of Methuselah Foundation. We've been doing biomedical research for the last 20 years. And I can tell from personal experience, it's always difficult to find enough funding to do science. So when we got started, we did the first version of decentralized science, which is called, oh, thanks, cool, much better, which was called like Open Innovation Prizes or Open Innovation Challenges. So this is the sort of thing that started with the Longitude Prize way back when people kept getting lost at sea. Went to like the Orteig Prize, which maybe you heard of, or the Ansari X Prize. And then we started doing stuff inspired by that to encourage scientists to spend their time on aging research, which 20 years ago when we got started was a very, very fringe thing to do. But now it's pretty normal. Billion-dollar companies are getting funded. And so when I came here, I was very happy to run into some folks who could help me fill this time, because it's the worst thing in the world is to try to listen to me talk for 20 minutes. So Allison from Foresight Institute, their organization has been going for 35 years and has been doing absolutely incredible, deep tech research before it was called deep tech, truly aspirational, wild and crazy stuff that normally, a long time ago, resided only in sci-fi novels. And now is becoming a little bit more mainstream. So I will hand it over to her. We have a bunch of really, really cool people trying to do science in a nice, serious way and actually do it in a way that scales.
Thank you, Dane. So I'm Allison, I'm from Foresight Institute. I'm one of the organizers of the DeSci track, which was going on since Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, together with Eugene and Shadi, who you will hear from in a second. So I also run Foresight Institute. Foresight Institute has existed for about 35 years. It's one of the OG futurist early stage funders of research and innovation that is too early stage and too niche or too interdisciplinary for other funders to take on. So we started with molecular nanotechnology. Who likes diamond age? Diamond age stuff, right? So who likes atomically precise manufacturing, like building things with atomic precision? You can basically build anything. Literally, the way that you move bits, you could move atoms. So that's our molecular machines track. That's what we focus on in this track. We have newer technology. Is anyone here interested in brain-computer interfaces, whole brain emulations? Raise your hand. Yes? I mean, guys, you like the metaverse. Come on. You need to plug in there somehow, right? Ultimately. Who's here into longevity, rejuvenation, biotechnology? Who cares about that? Okay, good. Okay, that's the obvious one, I think, for this crowd. Who here cares about space? So all the way from asteroid mining to Dyson spheres. Yeah? Okay, good. How about Dyson swarms? Anyone? Yeah? Okay, good. And who here likes decentralized computing and doing it in a privacy-preserving way, using anything from homomorphic encryption to cooperate from humans to AIs and across humans? Anyone into this? Good. Okay, I hope so. So we support all of these research areas, and we do this via a fellowship in these areas. We do this via seminars in which domain experts get together with funders and with folks that support this early stage stuff. We do this via workshops and prizes. And so recently, there's been considered interest in doing a DAO, because usually my day-to-day life consists of me running around between a bunch of fellows and a bunch of funders and trying to matchmake them one-to-one. And so people now want to do this in a much more decentralized way. That's why the Foresight DAO, that's why we explore the Foresight DAO. We already have pretty good early confirmed investor interest from Balaji Srinivasan and a few others who I think should be names for you guys here. But if you're interested in checking this out and collaborating in this, either by getting funding or by doing due diligence or any of the other bits, then feel free to check out the Foresight DAO. We also do tech trees. So who here has played the game Civilization or any of the games in which you use tech trees? Yeah, great. Okay, so you know what those are and why they're important and interesting. So one way in which we try to make it a little bit more accessible for other folks, for outside folks and talents to actually plug into these areas that we work in is by building technology trees to map the entire space. So basically we map the labs, the organizations and private companies that are working on the individual nodes that are important for technology. Basically any one of these nodes, you click on it, it zooms out and gives you a page of the organizations working in this, and ultimately open challenges. So we're doing these tech trees for nanotech, biotech, neurotech, molecular machines in space. They're currently being built through interviewing domain experts. In particular, what are open challenges that they want to see funded? The idea is that at the end of this, behind each of these nodes, we can either bountify them or even put a DAO behind that to fund an individual ecosystem growing from that. Currently, we're collaborating with VitaDAO on the first types of prizes for the specific longevity research space. Who here knows about VitaDAO? Great. Yeah, VitaDAO is like another DAO that's very close to my heart. It's basically one of the OGs for longevity research funding, and they do so via basically getting their community members ownership of the IP through NFTs. If you're interested in learning more about this, I don't know if Kathu is here. Are you here? There she is. Okay, lovely. They're doing a meetup tomorrow night, I think. And so feel free to talk to her in case you're interested in learning more. So super excited to collaborate with them. Finally, you all care a bunch about NFTs, I heard today. So we have an existential hope gallery. The whole idea is to inspire folks that don't necessarily know why sci-fi futures are amazing. And we have an NFT art collection, and a bunch of the money goes, like any dividends that gets raised from this goes to the artist, to the scientist. So it's a very decentralized way of actually funding early stage science. This one here is to raise awareness about cryonics, and this is specifically about the cryopreservation of pets. And so this is the first reanimated dog, and it's now up on OpenSea, and you can go through it for the Existential Hope website. If you're into any of this, again, this is how you can subscribe to any of it. And so, yeah, we're working on making sci-fi futures real. I hope you join us. And with that, I want to give it over to Shadi to tell you a bit about UpSea. Come find me if you want to.
Thank you. A round of applause for Allison. Foresight's incredibly amazing institution that's been around for many years, that's been pushing the envelope forward on technology that we're all using today, like some of the first smart contracts, right? So one round of applause for Allison. Yeah, so let me give you a little introduction to myself. I am trained as a cognitive neuroscientist, and I have been green-pilled. I believe in the power of regenerative economics for science. So this is why I started OpSci, which is a nonprofit pending 501c3 certification to explore the use cases of Web3 for improving and fixing some of the major problems in science. And one of the major issues we're trying to target are broken feedback loops of value flows in research and development. I'm assuming there's quite a few Americans in the audience today. What if I told you that your tax funding doesn't get caught in a sustainable cycle within science, that all economic growth is due to science, but scientists do not benefit from those funds, that value sinks are sucking out the lifeblood of scientific funding, and it's very difficult to fund the projects that we care about that improve our lives, make us healthier, and make the world a better place. So we're tackling the problem. How do we grow a self-sustaining knowledge creation community that is as prosperous as it is productive? How can we move away from legacy capitalist systems that extract value from pure scientific discovery and curiosity? We're tackling this by building an open access knowledge commons for scientists. One of our fellows, Kinshuk Kashyap, might be in the audience today, is leading the charge, onboarding hundreds of terabytes of neuroimaging data on decentralized file storage and making that open access and free for any scientist that wants to use it. We're also building here at ETH Denver, as part of a hackathon, a decentralized science identity directory for single sign-on with Ethereum. We have a team, a really talented team, including Kinshuk, Nanak, and Lily, who might be in the audience, building out this stack, which will allow us to import all of the Web 2 credentials and academic, basically knowledge graphs into Web 3, commit them to a proof of record on a blockchain system, and be able to have a single place where we can start collecting verifiable information regarding scientific output. And also I should mention that that's really important if we're trying to track incentives and contributions down to the root level, right? The individuals that actually make science happen can be recognized in a much better way this way. We're also exploring publishing and how to deal with some of the issues that are challenging scientific publishing today. So we have a fellow, Akshata, who's working on a digital permanent library for scholarly articles that operates on ARWeave for permanent archival of this data and these papers. There's a number, I think 17% of papers every year become extant. And that's just a fancy word meaning that they're unavailable. So how can we curb this problem and make sure that the taxpayer-funded research is available for people to use to be able to develop open source technology and improve our lives? And so as part of this, we're also really diving deep into Web3 tokenomic design systems. It's one thing to design tokenomics for a DeFi protocol, for a financial application. It's another thing completely entirely to design a token system for something as complex as science with many overlapping interests, shareholder groups, and unintended consequences of commercialization. So as part of this, one of our fellows, Jakob Smekal, is putting together a toolbox called Dark Spice, which is a fork of, if you're familiar with it, a software toolbox, multi-agent software simulation toolkit that allows us to simulate how tokenomic value flows would be able to be constructed for decentralized science communities. DARC stands for Decentralized Autonomous Research Communities, and we're really, really excited to open up this toolbox for everyone to submit their own model for how they think a tokenized system for funding, execution, and dissemination of knowledge should exist or behave. And lastly, we are incredibly dedicated to community mentorship, fellowship, and scholarship. So we have an open web fellowship program that's sponsored and funded a lot of the projects that you see here today. And you can go ahead and take a look at our website, pulse.opsci.io, and you can read about all the amazing work and see the spotlights on the different fellows there. So as part of this outreach, we also have put together, as Allison and Dane have mentioned, the first ever decentralized science community conference here at ETH Denver, where we're green-pilling other DeFi degens and bringing them into the regenerative economic space, thinking about how we can improve scientific research. We've budgeted $6,500 for travel scholarships to bring people out here, but with minimal outreach and prep and marketing, we just kind of had word of mouth, tried to boost the signal as much as we could. Within about 2 weeks, we've had over $25,000 requested and more than 40 applications for travel grants to come out here. Despite that, we've been able to run 8 events for over 10 hours at these venues. Over 400 POAPs, on-chain records of attendance, have been claimed from these events, 9 travel grants issued, 23 speakers on a wide variety of topics that will blow your mind, and attendees from over 6 continents. These guys and gals are working on over 7 hackathon proposals right now. And I'd like to introduce Eugene to kind of give you an idea of the overall DeSci landscape. This is just a slice of a very rich and vibrant ecosystem that's just getting started.
Great, thank you, Shadi. Round of applause for Shadi, Allison, and Dane so far. It's been very exciting seeing just how much activity and excitement there has been around this kind of DeSci community that's forming. And I'm Eugene Leventhal. I'm the head of operations at the Smart Contract Research Forum. And our initial foray into kind of exploring this space was looking at the various DAOs that are forming to perform research on DAOs or on governance. So we were very focused on who is using Web3 tools or structures, or at least funds from the Web3 space, to be able to advance some research and knowledge around Web3. But we very quickly started coming across a number of great organizations that are using Web3 tools, but to advance science much more broadly, and to think about what are the different ways that we can, again, use either this community, the tools, or at least the funds in this space to be able to truly accelerate research much more, the research, the review side, and the publishing side. And so this is sort of a map, and I realized as soon as we went out here, I was like, I forgot Acorn, and they're here, and they've presented at ETH Denver, and there's so many different projects coming up right now that we know this is not a complete map, but this is at least who we've been able to directly connect with and represent, whether they've been physically on the ground here in ETH Denver, or at least were able to connect with us and be part of a Twitter space that we held right as the conference was getting kicked off last Friday. And it's been really great to see that from the organizations here, Atoms, Braid, DeSci World, DeSci Foundation, OpSci, LabDAO, Governauts, DAO Research Collective, MetaDAO, SciNet, RNDAO, Scurf, TalentDAO, VitaDAO, Research Hub, they're all here, and we all gathered together, and we got to be part of something that many of us didn't even realize was a global community. A lot of folks, whether it's participants or even some of the folks representing these organizations, have kind of openly stated of, hey, I didn't realize we were doing a DeSci thing. I didn't realize we were part of this much bigger group. And that's why we're really excited to be able to try to put together all of this energy and momentum and think about how can we actually carry this forward beyond this event and what's been going on here. And that's why we're really excited to announce that we're putting together this DeSci community fund to be able to fund more individuals actually being able to get to these kind of events, right? We've had a lot of organizers and DeSci contributors who weren't able to travel to Denver because travel, especially for projects that are just being bootstrapped and ones that are public goods and non-monetizing, it can be very difficult to actually be able to afford to just get to the places where these conversations are happening. And so we want to dedicate this community fund via DeSci.eth, and it's exciting that we're just letting the world know, and we already have 1 ETH in there, and we're trying to gather funds to be able to, again, pay for contributors, especially who are bootstrapping their projects to be able to make it to these kind of community events, as well as for actual just community members, anyone showing up to these conversations, showing up to our Twitter Space conversations, showing up to the virtual events that we're going to host to make sure to highlight all of the projects who couldn't be here with us in Denver now. We want to make sure they equally get love and support from this wonderful community that's forming. And so this wallet is feeding into sort of a multi-sig that a number of core contributors that have come together here that we're going to be managing and paying out these kind of grants so that, as Shadi mentioned, we had over $25,000 requested with practically no advertising and no global community to fall back on. How do we actually make sure, and we only were able to give 6,500, or not we, that was the OpSci community that did that wonderful task. How can we actually expand this and provide a constant source of support for anyone who's trying to be very active in this community? So if you do want to, and you are in a position where you are able to contribute to this kind of fund, to be able to make it to future events so that we can have more speakers come out, this is the place to give a donation to. And from that perspective, we want to make sure that the next event we're starting to think about is going to be around ETH Amsterdam in late April. We also want to make sure to organize around ETHCC in Paris, because we know they were already starting to have some DeSci conversations last year, even if it wasn't exactly called DeSci at the time. But I know there were at least a few folks here in the audience who were there and part of those discussions. And in the fall, we want to make sure to be at ETH Bogota. And in the spring next year, we want to come back here to ETH Denver and report back to all of you folks and any of our contributors and supporters what the progress has actually been in this first year of going from a bunch of disparate individuals to an actual global community that's really trying to support each other and try to think of how can we best be this kind of network that can springboard into a lot more activity. And I know just that with the groups that we've had to connect with and had the chance to kind of break bread with and spend more time with, it's been wonderful hearing all the amazing ideas, whether in the direct projects mentioned or just what else we all can be doing as a community. But the first step for any of that to be possible is we need to actually be a single global community. So again, this fund is really intended to bring us all together and have a dedicated way for more folks to make it out to these events. And we'll make sure to keep doing virtual things to keep this open and accessible for anyone who is not able to travel. But for those who are not in a position to contribute, you can still absolutely be part of this community. This QR code is heading to the Telegram group that we've been running over DeSci at ETH Denver, and we're going to make sure to merge this with the other main kind of DeSci groups that have been forming in other areas, and we're going to make sure to connect individually with all the folks who weren't here in Denver. So if you do want to be part of this community, you just want to hear what's going on, you want to join one of the wonderful organizations and potentially contribute your skills to them, whether it's technical or non-technical, this Telegram group is the right place to join to just be part of this conversation.